The final appeal case today. Of course, we always have technical difficulties on this show every single time. Hopefully, I fixed it. We're going to get into the case of the Menendez brothers. August 20th, 1989 is the date of the gruesome killing that these two brothers did in Beverly Hills. They were children of privilege, spoiled if you want, spoiled rotten if you want to say that, you would be correct. We got some Everclear on in the background here. We're going to draw both the Menendez brothers, and we're going to tell you about their final appeal, which has recently been in the news. August 20th, 1989 is when the crime was committed in Beverly Hills. And we are drawing Erik as he looks today. And this is Erik and Lyle. Erik, Lyle. Lyle's the bald one. Erik's the one with the hair. These guys are not accused of. These guys did gun down both their parents in cold blood, which is particularly heinous when talking about you killed your mother. That's pretty heinous crime there. It's someone that birthed you, and think about it, guys, that's pretty despicable. The woman that gave birth to you and held you when you were a baby, you're gonna shoot her right in the face, like almost double-digit times, I believe. The one prosecutor, or the one detective on scene, said he couldn't even tell which Menendez was which. And that made me think a little bit. They shot them up that bad where they couldn't even tell which person was which person, the female or the male. The mom and the dad, they couldn't tell. Couldn't recognize them. That's pretty despicable. So the Menendez brothers says this is the final appeal of Erik. Since we're drawing Erik, we're going to tell you about how his final appeal went. Erik will get a chance to pursue parole in 3 years, but he wasn't able to get parole this time. Big surprise, right? And because he still poses a threat to society. Yes, so the Menendez brothers are not ready to be released because of their actions in prisons, says members of the parole board. And I'll tell you what, they didn't want to really face the parole board, but they are, and there's nothing really they could do about it. They wanted to go with more of a political aspect. They wanted to be seen in front of like more political type people, not the parole board, because they're They're using what they did in prison against them, which is what it should be happening. So, I'm sorry I'm not saying hi, but I'm busy drawing here. So, you are tuned into this channel to learn about this educational. So, it's not really social. So, if I don't say hi to you, don't get mad. Um, Menendez brothers are not ready to be released because of their actions in prison. The hearing went 10 hours for Erik. Despite every member of their family wanting him to be released, he did not receive the release. Deputy DA said he still keeps denying responsibility in the death of his parents when he gunned them down in August of 1989. So the judge is quoted as saying, you have two options. You can have a pity party for yourself, or you can take to heart to what we have discussed in this courtroom today. This is the judge, a quote of the judge at the parole hearing, saying to Erik. The commissioners kept asking Erik, why did you gun down your mother? His answer was he was so devastated upon learning that she took part in his sexual abuse by letting it happen knowingly that he shot her. The alleged sexual abuse, I must add, it is alleged by them. We don't know if that really happened. So we are drawing Lyle right now, but we're talking about Erik. Rules don't apply to him, is the opinion of most commissioners on the parole board in the parole board hearing. When discussing the alleged sexual abuse by his father, Jose, it's Erik's words against the parents. But the only problem is the parents never got a shot of defending themselves because they were brutally murdered by him and his brother. Erik did not receive parole mainly because of his actions that he did after the murder, what he did while incarcerated. Also, it played in a part of the decision was the pre-actions before the murders. Erik admitted to taking part in many robberies. Family says that was part of the reason why they moved from Calabasas, California to Beverly Hills. Because Erik was just robbing everybody, it seems. So these guys were going down a criminal path way before the murders. There is new evidence in the Menendez case. The boy band named Menudo, one of the guys in there signed an affidavit, which is admissible in court. He signed it saying that Jose Menendez, Erik's father, molested him. And I don't know, Erik's father was a big deal at RCA Records. He had access to bands like Menudo, but it's still alleged. So this guy from Menudo says that he molested him also. Who knows? But that's one of the big new evidences in this case. Still doesn't give them the reason to kill their mother, though. Like, so this is a quick picture of Erik and Lyle Menendez. And
Nobody likes a cracked windshield.
and this is what they look like today. After the murders and after 30 plus years in jail, this is what they look like. I think Lyle looks pretty crazy. But Erik looks pretty normal. Erik kind of does remind you, or Lyle kind of reminds you of a sociopath. Just by the way he looks. So. He looks like a murderer. We got Everclear on in the background. For those who are fans of the 90s pop punk band. An interesting fact in this case is one of the original jury members from the original Menendez trial is now coming out, and she is saying that she thinks the boys are innocent, and she says they should be released. But by the way, she wrote a book and it's called Hung Juror. What a load of crap. Of course she wants to be on their side now. She wants to sell books. So, that's a load of crap. You guys aren't actually going to believe this lady. Yeah, so this lady's actually peddling a book now, and she's trying to get momentum behind her book. That's the only reason why she's saying those things. We got Everclear on in the background. So now we're going to move on to Lyle. So shockingly, Lyle was denied parole also. It took 12 hours of questioning him. Lyle Menendez took 12 hours in their line of questioning the parole board. And they talked about how he tried to recruit witnesses to lie for him while he was on trial for the original murder, the original trial. And the shopping spree him and his brother took right after they killed their parents. That never looks good for you. You go on a shopping spree after you shoot down your parents. Probably shouldn't have done that. Now, the parole board commissioners did ask Lyle a question. Did this spending of this money and buying of the flashy things actually help you cope with what you did to your parents? And that was the judge that asked that. And Lyle answered it. It did for a while. It got me out of the anguish that I had just had after I committed the murder of my parents. This would set a new precedent if these guys were released. Because if you just imagine you let these two out that committed double murders, you just let them go free on their first shot. Every other offender that is doing life on death row, they would all come out of the woodwork, and they would be like, well, why do they get to go free and we're still sitting in here? So they would want their shot. And I don't think it would go too well. So
Applewood Smoke Jam is here. 2 for $7.
So they cited that Lyle has a real lack of insight on his crimes, and they also cited that on Erik too. They both lack insight of what they did. And they both cited their actions. Lyle's action while in jail. He they both were huge factors in the decision. The violations of the cell phone and the ordering of drugs in jail and the actual confiscated pair of soccer shorts from the brothers, and they were constantly getting into fights and skirmishes. They were not model inmates. They were a far cry from model inmates. They both are wearing that baby blue prison uniform. Usually it's like orange, isn't it? They got the baby blue on though for some reason. They did argue that both brothers, that they did not follow the rules because they figured, I'm never getting out of here anyway, so why would I follow the rules? And actually they tried to use that in their favor, which is a clever ploy. I guess it worked a little bit, but they're both denied, so they gotta wait 3 more years, which is kind of crazy in itself. I think they should just stay where they are and not get any more chances to get out, but that's not what others believe. I think they're right where they belong, in my opinion. And that is my opinion. So I'm allowed to have an opinion. It's not a conspiracy. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. When people say that I'm a conspiracy theorist, I'm just stating my opinion. We're allowed to have opinions under the Constitution. Unless that's changed. I don't think it did, though. And the commissioners found that Lyle did show remorse more than his brother Erik, which is interesting. So they believe that Lyle showed a little bit more remorse than his brother Erik. And they have seen that he has changed. The commissioners, in their opinion, he has changed. But, there's always a but. He still does show that he struggles with minimization of his crime, deceit of his crime, and the general antisocial behavior. Judges do not buy the molestation angle. So, I'm not saying that they did not get molested. There has been new things that come to light that I never knew about, like Jose possessing naked pictures of both the boys. That's weird, in my opinion. And if that's true, maybe they did get molested. I'm not ruling that out. That still doesn't give them the right to gun down their mother. Why did they gun down their mother? Because she's a witness? That's just crazy talk. They could have handled it other ways. Or they could have just left. Why didn't they just leave? Lyle was 21 at the time and Erik was 18. They were both able to leave. They were rich enough where they could have done that. You know? They could have definitely done that. And they wouldn't have been destitute or anything like that. I mean, their father was a millionaire. So I'm definitely saying that they might have been molested. It's very possible. People that knew Erik, went to school with Erik, said the father was a beyond crazy tyrant. And who knows what that culminated into when there was no one around. You never know what's going on behind closed doors, and that's true. So the brothers are both still claiming that molestation angle. And that's the reason why all of this happened. But the judges don't buy it. As simple as that. The judges do not buy it. They didn't want to be in front of a parole board. That was the last thing that these Menendez brothers wanted. They wanted to be in front of like guys that are looking to be elected again, and that they thought was their one shot, maybe, of getting free. Maybe like a political agenda. That was their one shot, and they did not get what they wanted. So they're forced to be in front of these parole boards. Erik was 10 or 11 hours, and Lyle was 12, something like 12 hours. They were doing drugs and stuff in jail too. They were selling drugs. They were definitely not model prisoners. Interesting fact on Lyle's case is the judge and commissioners said Lyle was not a model prisoner, but 24 relatives have come forward and asked for Lyle's parole. So that they buy Lyle's remorse, but not necessarily Erik's. So that would be another interesting thing in this. Imagine if Lyle got released and Erik didn't. Like, what kind of chaos would that make? You know, that would be crazy too. The brothers went in front of 2 separate parole boards. That's a side note on this case. They didn't get their stories were not heard by the same parole board. So Erik got a parole board to listen to his side, and Lyle got a separate parole board to listen to his side, to listen to his points. Finally, there's a lot of crazy cases going on in California, like Scott Peterson. They're trying to. I did a show on that too. Maybe I'll link that in this one. That's a crazy case. They're trying to say that he's innocent. And the Menendez brothers and Sirhan too. They tried to get him out too, but the governor denied that. So there's a lot of crazy type things going on in California. But anyway, folks, that does it for this episode of the Freedom to Draw Unsolved Mysteries. The mystery is not the who did it on this one, because we know who did it. It's these two right here. They did it, but the mystery on this is why. They say it was molestation. Others say it was for the money, which I happen to be part of that, for the money. But anyway, guys, do something kind for somebody, a stranger, anybody. Other people see that and they want to do something kind in turn. All right. Peace out, true believers.